So in summer of 2023, I did a race. I used a program called QtVlm to give me weather routines. And what I mean by weather routines is it gave me the path to follow during the race that would get me there as quickly as possible. This is done by downloading what we call GRIB files, which are weather predictions over time, and mapping those with your position at that point and what the best wind angle is for the position or for the direction you want to go. So this computer program that I'm going to show you is called QtVlm, and I'm going to walk through very simple instructions on how to get at least a basic model going. There was one particular race that I used QtVlm to give me a prediction, and that race was the Lake Michigan Single-Handed Society's double-handed race. And in this race, we were racing from Racine to Port Washington, which is about, I think it's about 50 miles, and it's basically directly north. So in a few days leading up to the race, I did a few different predictions, and a day before the race, it looked like multiple predictions were all showing the same weather patterns and the same path, which is something I'll go through later on how I do that. But for now, if you look at the screen, what you'll see is the two paths. That one to the left here is the one that was predicted, and the one to the right here is the one we actually took. So on the prediction, it starts off in Racine here and heads northeast, and then it heads further northeast, and then this area here, it sort of rolls around over time as the wind changes and straight into Port Washington. On this side, we actually were able to go further north than we'd expected, but at this point we hit some really bad weather. And the storm that came in totally changed the angle that we were going at, and it pushed us out into the middle of the lake. If you look at the two paths, we're approximately the same location for each one. And when we got to this point here, which I had this map overlaid on my chart plotter, so I could see exactly where we needed to turn. When we got to this point here, we turned and we headed north, and we tried to stay on it as much as possible. But we found we were going a little bit too slow if we followed this line. So we ended up cutting a little bit inside this line and ended up a bit shallow of actually Port Washington. So we had to tack a few times to get into Port Washington, and that was our decision. We could have stayed on this line, but we'd have been going slower, and in the wave conditions on that particular day, we decided it was better to go faster and have to tack at the end. So that's what we did. When you look at the times involved in these two, the prediction and the actual time were very similar. There was less than 20 minutes in it on basically a 13 or 14 hour race. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through how I developed this model and what it looks like, and how you can do this yourself. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go onto the internet, and you want to go to this web address. This will be in the write-up, so you can click on the link in the write-up, or just copy it down as it is right now. And once you're at this website, you'll see this is the QtVlm web page, so you can look through and read all about it in here. And then what you want to do first is go to download, and once you're at the download page, you want to go to the latest, and then depending on what operating system you're on depends on what you want to do. So Windows, Macintosh, Linux, and Raspberry Pi. Just be aware that right now Raspberry Pi will not work with Debian Bookworm. So Raspberry Pi 5 is out at the moment, but 2, 3, and 4, you can get a package for that. I'm running Raspberry Pi 5 at the moment, so I don't have it. I did have it on Raspberry Pi 4, and I'm really looking forward to them releasing it on Raspberry Pi 5, because on Raspberry 4 it's a little slow, I think. On Raspberry 5 I think it'll be perfect. But I basically went to here and downloaded the Windows version. This is a Windows PC that I'm using, and then the desktop version for a laptop or a desktop, or the tablet version. So click on here and start the download. So click on here again and it will start downloading. You see it went into here and it's currently downloading. So once the software is downloaded, you can go to here and you can basically click on this and it will run through the setup process. It's pretty straightforward. I'm not going to do it. The reason I'm not going to do it is because I've already got it installed. So I'm going to go to here and I'm going to fire up my installation. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom right out, and I've already got maps loaded for Lake Michigan and the Great Lakes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to load up some maps. I'm going to show you how to add, for instance, the Northeast. So all the maps are under charts. So go up here and go to charts. Go to the bottom, and if you're in the US, go to the NOAA catalog. That's basically the easiest. Go here, and then what you can do is you can pick your Coast Guard district. So you can say get NOAA catalog, and it will download the latest NOAA catalog. Go to here, pick a Coast Guard region. This one here is the Northeast, so like Gulf of Maine, stuff like that, right? So that's all Martha's Vineyard. So that's the Northeast. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select all. So I'm going to say all, and it will give me all those maps, and then I'm basically just going to install. And it's 766 maps, and you can see how quick it goes. It's pretty quick. I'm downloading these from the internet. They're not very big files, so they'll come down pretty quickly. So once it's complete, you can then press OK, and it'll basically start rebuilding the charts, and it will then load them up. So you can see it's added the the Atlantic northeast of the US. So these are all the maps from there, and you can zoom in there. But what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in back into Lake Michigan. The first thing we're going to do is now we've set up the charts here, we're going to set up the boat. So we're going to go to boat, I'm going to go to boat settings, and then we're going to type in the name of our boat, and you can put the MMSI in if you like, but for a basic setup you don't need to do this. I would go straight to Polar here, and in Polar what you're going to do is you're going to basically find a Polar that works for your boat, so that's close to your boat or is exactly your boat. Now, a few ways you can do this. First of all, you can import a Polar. So you can select this and you can import one, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. But if you don't have one, what you can do is you can go to Polar Server here, and it will give you a list of Polars that you can download. So you can go through this list and you can pick the boat that is your boat, and you can get a Polar for that. So have a look through this list, see if your boat is on the list, and if it is, you can select it. If not, then you need to do something else. So what else do you do? Well, there's a couple of things. Firstly, I created my own Polar, and I have two different Polars that I look at, and these Polars are the Hunter 336 unofficial Polar, which is one I created, and I created that from a 356 and a 326, and I basically did some averaging in between there, because the 356 and the 326 and the 336 are very similar boats, with the 356 being faster and the 326 being slower because of the waterline length. Apart from that, they're pretty similar. I also found an ORC boat, or an ORC spec, and if you go to the ORC website, which I will show you now, if you go to the ORC website, you can actually become a member. And when I say become a member, you can basically register free membership, and then you can search for boats and get ORC certificates. And in the ORC certificates, they generally, and not all of them, but some of them have a polar. So this is a polar diagram for the 336. So what I did is I basically copied this and I made it into a polar. Now, what I'm going to show you now is what a polar looks like as a text file. So, so this is the polar for the 336. So basically you start with this. The top line is basically true wind angle versus true wind speed. So across the top, it's 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 20, and that's knots. And then down the side are angles 52, 60, 75, 90, 110, 120, 135, 150, 180. And each one of these entries is basically the speed, the boat speed, or speed through water with the 6 knots at 52 degrees and etc. And they're all separated by semicolons. So basically this is your polar diagram. And then when you input that into QtVlm, and it can go in .pol, .csv, or .xml, but really whatever it is, as long as it looks like the text file I just showed you, you can change the last 3 digits to .pol, and it will come in correctly. You can see I've got some here that are CSV, I got some here that are POL, but they're all basically the same. The CSV are actually separated, and I also got an Ericsson one that I looked at for a friend of mine. So I'm going to cancel this, and then I'm going to sort of show you what the polar looks like. So these are the settings, but what it actually is going to look like is in here. And if you go to view and then you add dashboard, you can see your polar here like so. So this is the polar diagram for this boat, and it's showing the characteristics right now at 10 knots, and you can change this and it will change the values to show you what the polar diagram looks like. I'm going to turn that off because it gets in the way. So now what we've got is we've got our boat set up with a polar, so it knows what speed, and just so you know, the polar diagram, what it does is it shows you what speed the boat will do at any wind angle, and it's based on true wind angles and true wind speeds. So don't use apparent when you're thinking about this or when you're checking it, because what I did is I thought to myself, okay, at these wind angles and at these speeds, do I get this boat speed? And if the answer is yes, you can check it like that. Right. So the next thing you do is we're gonna find a route that we wanna work on. Now I'm looking at the Queen's Cup next year as a race I'm gonna do, and the Queen's Cup is from the Queen's Cup Start, which is over here. So in this program, all you need to do if you want to put a position down is you can zoom to where the point is that you want to use. Say I wanted to say this point here is where I want to start the race. So then I can right click here and I can drop a mark. And if I drop a mark, I can name it, give it a name, whatever I want to do. And I can also, if I want to, I can change the position. So if I said, well, I actually wasn't quite in that position, I want to move it, you can do it here and just change these dimensions here and get yourself a, so for instance, if I said like, it's not 43.023, but it's 43.025 or 43.1. Then I can do it. I can basically go when it's 43.1. So now that point drops in somewhere over here. I've already got this Queen's Cup start position right here, so I'm going to use that as that position. On the other end of my track is a place over here called South Haven. Now, the race information hasn't come out yet, so the absolute coordinates that the end of the race is going to finish at hasn't been published. So what I did here is I created another point and I called it South Haven. So I've got Queen's Cup start on one end and South Haven on the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure those 2 points are on the screen so I can see both of them. And then I'm going to go in here where these are GRIB files. So in the GRIB files, you've got 3 slots. What we're going to do for a basic model is we're just going to start with 1. And everybody, if you're aware of like weather models, most people know what the GFS model is. So I'm going to go to XY GRIB here, and I'm going to change this to the GFS model. And then what I'm setting here is I can set the resolution, so how tight together the points are that it's going to make, where it's going to make predictions. So this is 1/4 of a degree, so it's going to make a point every 1/4 of a degree. And then how far apart these are. So it's 3 hours apart, and then over a 10-day duration. So to speed it up, you can change the duration. So for instance, if you wanted to say my race is in 3 days, right? So I'm going to do it in 3 days out. Then now it's going to make a smaller file than it would do if you downloaded 10 days. So I'm going to press download GRIB here. And as you see, it was quick. It's really quite a small file, but it's giving you information about the GRIB. This is what the GRIB file's called. It was 0.06 megabytes, so it's really small. Size in memory 0.13, really small files. And then I'm just going to press OK here. And what you do have to make sure is that both the points that you are wanting to make your route through are on the screen when you download the GRIB, because otherwise it might not cover the space that you want to do. Now you can see these little arrows on the screen here, and the little arrows, firstly it shows the wind direction. So wherever the end of the arrow is pointing is the wind direction. So in this case, it's practically going from south to north. So it's pretty much a southerly wind. And then this barb here, you can see there's 2 long barbs here, whereas this one here, there's a long barb and a short barb. Now each one of those barbs, the long barbs are 10 knots and the short barbs are 5 knots. So this one is approximately 15 knots and this one is approximately 20 knots. And if you look at the very bottom here in the margin here, it shows you wind and wind direction. So now if we go to any point on the screen, like the one we said a minute ago was 20 knots, so right here, you can see it's actually 17 or 17.9 or 18 thereabouts, and it's 186 degrees. It's coming from 186 degrees, so just off southerly. Now you can also see the color. So you see the green here, and the green means it's more like 10 to 15, and then the yellow here is 15 to 20. So the gradient of the color, and most people are familiar with that. If you use anything like predict wind or windy or something like that, it will show you that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a route. So I'm going to go to routines and I'm going to create a route. So this is my routing number 1. So I'm going to say it's the Queen's Cup 2024. And then now I can do it from the boat. I can use a pathway, which is another different way, which I'm not going to cover in this because I think this is the easiest way. Or you just basically pick 2 points. So from here, I'm going to go from the Queen's Cup start to South Haven. So I've picked my 2 points, and now it will predict this point from the date right now. So it'll pick it as if you're leaving right now. If you don't want that, say we're doing the race tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the date to tomorrow, and I'm going to tab through there. I'm going to put 08:30. So I'm going to start at 8:30 tomorrow morning, and then basically I'm just going to press OK. And what it's doing is it shows me the route, but then as you can see, it's building a track based on the wind predictions and these gradients. So now it says that we will arrive at 8 o'clock, so 8 p.m. So it's 11:30, and the calculation took 7 seconds. Now, I have a lot of RAM in this machine, it's an i7, it's a really good machine, so it might take longer for other machines. Now, from here, you can decide whether you want to go to simplify the route or to optimize the route. I'm going to optimize the route, and it will basically optimize the route here, and all the way down it will give you the times at which you hit these points, all the way down. And then again, I'm going to press optimize here, and it will do the same again. It will double check all the calculations, and it will come up with the optimum route. And now it's still saying 8 o'clock. Calculation took 4 seconds. So now you've got each one of these points shows you these slight changes in angle where you're going. And basically what I do now is I would take this model and I would export it as a GPX file and email it to my chart plotter, which is sat on the table over there right now. And I would and then upload it into OpenCPN and then basically run with that and have that on the screen all the way through. When they're white like this, it's telling you that it's daylight, and then when it's black like that or grey like that one, it's telling you it's nighttime. So this is a basic model. And so what I'm going to show you now is that you can hover over this and you can look at any point and it will tell you what the wind speed is. But what you can also do is you can go to edit route and then look at the statistics. So right here it tells you that the navigation time is 11 hours 30 minutes. The 2 hours 30 minutes of it will be at night. The minimum speed will be 4.7, maximum speed will be 6.95, and the minimum average speed will be 6.61. True wind speed, minimum 9.5, maximum 16.5, averaging 12.8. Distance traveled 75 miles. Beating, reaching, basically it's giving you the angles that you are at. Now this is just a summary. If you want to dig into this much more, you can do. So there are histograms here. True wind speed, it shows you the true wind speed that are expected, and you can hover and it'll tell you the times and dates that involved. So we started off at 8:30 a.m. and it was 9.5 knots, and then a bit further up it's 10 knots at 9 o'clock, and so on. And it'll tell you all the way through the route. It will also true wind direction, so you can see that the true wind direction is coming from the south basically all the way. True wind angle, so that's angle to the boat. So here we see that it's on the starboard side, and it's basically it's going to be around 60 to 90 all the way there. So you're beating or reaching. You can also look at apparent wind angle here as well, which says 45 to 50 or there about 60 there. So 60 apparent is about 90 true. Course over ground, it'll tell you the direction you're traveling all the time, and speed over ground. So it's showing the speed over ground. In fact, I should really race this tomorrow morning because it's going to be a fast race, but it'll be ice breaking. No, actually, no, it's 55 degrees today, so it won't be ice breaking. So that's the histograms. In here, in the root log, it basically gives you a 5-minute interval rundown of exactly the conditions that you're seeing all the way through. It's basically what was used to do the histograms, and you can export that as a CSV file in order to do something extra with that, whatever you want to do. But you can see the true wind speed, it changes the color as we go through this. So that's basic usage. So if you like this video, let me know, see if I can dig deeper into certain elements of this software and how I use it, and also go through how to export GPX files for use in your chart plotters and things like that. So let me know if it's useful to you, and please like and subscribe, and also if you found it really useful and you want to buy me a drink, just become a channel member, even if you just do it once